for a wonderful session like always. So welcome back everyone. It has been a bit of a break. So happy to be back and hope the feeling is mutual. Longer than usual break we had this time around because we had stuff going on here, family camp. So let's get started. A very warm welcome. We will get started with the topic of our discussion. We'll resume our journey in Bhagavad Gita. So let me share my screen and we shall get underway. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, you have to do that in the presentation. Yeah.
All right, so let's get started. Like always, we'll get started with our opening prayers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, so Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So let's get started. We are on Shloka 5.24. We'll get started with the Shloka itself. Now, we'll try to go a little fast now to cover the length of Bhagavad Gita. We'll see how many shlokas. I mean, of course, we want to gain the required depth as well. So maybe a couple of days for each shloka, but you'll see a relative speed now so that we can go complete one round and then, of course, we can gain depth as we go along this journey as well. So let me recite this shloka and then we'll get underway. Yonta sukhontararamah tathantarjyotirev yah sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodhikachati. Okay, let's take a few hands. Any volunteers? Yes, Riyaji, please go ahead. Riyaji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yontas sukontara rama tathantar jyotir eva yaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digachati.
Very nice. Thank you, Riyaji. Radhe Radhe Sandhya. Go ahead, please.
योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामः तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति.
Wonderful. Very nice. Radhe Radhe Parnaji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji and everyone. Yontah sukhontaramas tathantar jyotireva yaham soyogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodhigachati. Thank
Very
you.
nice. Thank you, Parnaji. Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Nitinji, I literally missed the sessions all this day. I was missing something is missing in my life. Thank you so much.
I can imagine I was missing the routine as well. Good to see familiar faces back. Shyamji, smile, please.
No, something is missing in a day. That's what I used to feel every day. Thank you so much for the classes.
No
All right.
worries. Go ahead.
योऽन्तः सुकोऽन्तराराम स्ततान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandhya ji. So let's get started. So this shloka says, those who are happy within themselves, enjoying the delight of God within, and are illumined by the inner light. Such yogis are united with the Lord and are liberated from material existence. So let's get started. Oops, what is it? So, you see what's going on here? So sometimes you fit perfectly, but it's not the right place. So just because you are fitting in nicely at some place does not mean that it is the right place, right? So if you can relate to it, it could be a job, the place, could be anywhere. Just have to make the course correction, right? So just because you are fitting in doesn't mean that that's the right place. So I found it pretty interesting, intriguing, and funny as well. So I thought I'll just bring it in. Anybody that reminds them of anything looking at this, feel free to come forward and okay, I can see some smiles. So in some form or capacity, we might have experienced that, right? Anyways, so let's move forward. So this is who we are, the soul that we are, right? We're inhabiting a body. It is a rental, as we speak about it, which is given to us for a finite amount of time as part of this human birth, so to say. Now, this inner light is the divine knowledge that is bestowed from within in the form of realization. So when we talk about inner light, it's nothing, something that we need to get from. It's something inside you that we need to lighten up. Spirituality is all about removing those layers of ignorance, right? We keep on talking about it, that this mind-body complex intellect as well, part of our mind only. When it all settles down, when it all gets purified, that's when the light within us shines forth. And that can happen only when the ignorance is removed. And ignorance is removed through the divine knowledge. And when the ignorance is removed, that knowledge becomes wisdom or the realization. And when you have it as realization, you don't need any proof for that. You just know it. So how does it happen? It happens through the grace of God. Okay, grace of God. Even in Bhagavad Gita, towards the end, Arjun tells to Krishna that now that you have imparted this knowledge to me, tat prasadat param, by your grace, now my ignorance is removed. He's not saying by my intellectual ability, he's saying by your grace. So it happens by the grace of God. And then grace of God comes in when we surrender ourselves to God. Okay, so this is how the process unfolds. So, okay. So when we surrender to God, we need to surrender and surrender where we unite our will to God. We have an acceptance around the situation that is happening, as opposed to whining, complaining, and thinking only if this would have happened and stuff like that. That is an acceptance. So that is the surrender when we completely surrender to God, and based on the proportion of our surrender, He converts that knowledge into wisdom, and that becomes our realization, and that much of inner light shines forth within us. The Yoga Darshan states, in the state of samadhi, one's intellect becomes filled with realization of the truth. So when you are perfectly situated there, then you are, that is called the state of samadhi. Then intellect is firmly situated in the truth, absolute truth. And that is the realization of the truth itself. It's just like when you have a lake's water is muddy, but when the mud settles down, the lake is clear, you can see its depth and you can see down, clearly. And same is happening. The noise or the clutter that we have here, once it all settles down, once that ignorance is removed, once it clears up, you can see things as it is, and then you are situated in perfect truth. So this is how the process unfolds. But the key is it is done, it is enabled through the grace of God, and that grace of God is enabled when we perfect our surrender to Him. Now let's try go a little deeper. Now, after Arjun is instructed to withstand the impulses of desire and anger, as we saw in the previous verse. Lord Krishna has been talking about that desire and anger, these forces will continue to pull you throughout your life. And this is confidential knowledge, right? And it's not only confidential knowledge, but this the reason for that is that not everybody is able to appreciate it, or they can't relate to these concepts at all, right? Now, yona sukho means one who's internally happy. Now, how can one be internally happy? This is where we are going to spend a bit of time in today's session and maybe tomorrow's session as well, where these two shlokas are going to talk about how can you remain happy within yourself. And why do we think that we need to plus something from outside to feel happy, while the scriptures keep on telling us you can be internally happy, right? So this is the happiness that one of the happiness is where you get it from your external objects, and then the other happiness, like if you look at it, one is from the external objects, the whole world as we look at it, and the other happiness that we seek is by absorbing our mind in God. And until we get that, until we start tapping into the bliss, we'll not be able to resist the external temptation. It's very simple. See, our mind says, I need happiness, some kind of a thrill I need. And until we relish or experience the bliss of God, we will have no incentive whatsoever to resist those temptations. It's a very simple thing. Our mind says, give me something. If you don't give me something higher or better, I will continue to engage in the material things or continue to seek happiness in those objects. Even if you keep on telling me there is no happiness, there is no happiness, because my experience is not telling me otherwise. We all go with our experience, right? I mean, it's all theory. Unless we relish something, our mind will not cooperate. It will repel. It will rebel, and it will say, "No, I don't find happiness. How come you are telling me that?" So somewhere, something you have to experience, and that bliss of God, even though it's a journey, but at least the abhas or the trace of it has to be experienced for you to start resisting those temptations, because that promise is there. The spirituality is selling us a promise in future, but then you will not go all in just because it's in future. You have to experience something now, here, now as well. And until you experience, you will have no incentive, no motivation whatsoever to invest in that. But then when the bliss of God starts flowing within the heart, the fleeting feelings of external happiness, then it starts seeming trivial, right? Saint Yamunacharya had said that ever since, it's again from the scriptures only, that ever since I've begun meditating upon the lotus-like feet of Lord Krishna, I've been experiencing ever increasing bliss. If by chance the thought of sex pleasure comes to my mind, I spit at that very thought and curl my lips in disdain. Now, this is something which a saint is saying because they have been able to tap in that kind of a bliss, right? So the sensual delight that people think is something that is going to give them pleasure, the people who have reached that stage say, though, you know what, this seems insipid in front of that. But then again, it's a journey. But the point here is that even the slightest abhas of that, because all of us, we are not yet in that situation where we are tapping into the fountain of the bliss of God. We can get traces of it on the path. Like, for example, when we chant the name of God, when we meditate upon God, when we think about God, when we relish His stories in the past times, and we talk about it, that itself is so powerful that you start losing interest in the worldly things, which otherwise seem pretty fascinating or, infatuating for us otherwise. So let's continue to build on this. Now, nirvana, this is the state we talk about, right? Nirvana is often thought this, Buddhist word, which means cessation, termination, and cessation of material existence, the end of material existence itself, right? We got about nirvana, moksha, that is also what is it's called, right? And Brahma Nirvana is the word that is being used in this verse. And in fact, it is repeatedly used. So if you look at 2.72, Brahma Nirvanam Prichati, Brahma Nirvan Mrishaya in 5.25, the same shloka that we are doing, Brahma Nirvana word is coming, and 6.15 Nirvana Paramam. So Nirvana word is coming repeatedly in a lot of verses. Okay. Now, Nirvana is the cessation of material existence, so finish. This is what essentially it means. However, when we talk about Brahma Nirvana, there's a higher spiritual realization we talk about, right? That there is life in Brahman as well. So this is much more deeper than the Nirvana itself. So it means ending of material existence and beginning of spiritual existence. Okay, so there's an ending and then there's another beginning that happens. And furthermore, this is something we'll discuss later. It goes to Brahma Bhuto Digachyati. Also, they attain Brahma Bhut, that their spiritual existence is something that begins. So in this case, Nirvana is about finishing. Yet there is a cessation of material life, but there is a simultaneous start of your spiritual life as well. And that is what the Brahma Nirvana is. So cessation of material and start of your spiritual life. So right now we are on the path of spirituality, working towards Brahma Nirvana. But when you reach that stage, the cessation of material life means you are beyond the cycle of life and death. But what happens? Does your existence cease to exist at that point? No, you still have your existence. It's like the basic principle in physics we had studied, right? That energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. So you are not going anywhere. Your existence will continue. I sometimes feel like sleeping is so good, but God says will not let you sleep. Okay, you will continue to exist. He'll give you a temporary sleep, but you have to wake up, because I have faith in you that whether you like it or not, the pleasure that I will give you, finally you will end up liking it. Okay, so the start of spiritual life happens, and then it's a journey that continues to unfold. So Brahma Nirvana is simultaneous revival of your spiritual existence. This word is used in multiple verses, as you see. 2.72, 5, even the next verse is going to talk about it, and 6.15 talks about it as well, right? So again, this is a state. How do you work towards that state? Not by seeking the material pleasures, but by seeking bliss in God. And when you truly start doing that, you transcend the material pleasures. And it's not going to happen as a unit step function that one day you're God realized, you lose interest in everything. It is going to be a continuous unfoldment as we start getting the trace of God's bliss, which is through our spiritual practice, through meditation, through chanting, through kirtan, through our contemplation on divine topics. Then finally the Brahma Nirvana state comes, where we transcend this material life. We go beyond that, and that's where our spiritual journey, the spiritual life begins. Spiritual journey is unfolding right now as well. Now let's talk a little bit more about Brahma Nirvana. So you have life, and then we have death. Do you like it? Okay. Life and death, right? This whole journey is B to D journey, right? Choices in between. So for a materialist, the life ends with death. Right? Everything ends. That is called Bhautikvad as well. That is where people say, right, enjoy the life to the fullest. Because once you cease to exist, there's nothing there for you. So enjoy it to the fullest. So the philosophy that is followed in Bhautikvad is life is like an ice cream. Enjoy it before it melts. Right. So, and then they think that once you die, your existence ceases to exist, right? That is what the science would basically have you believe, because it has not gotten to the concept of soul as yet. So this is called Bhautikvad philosophy. Even Charvak's philosophy supports this, right? It says that Yatha Jivet, like for as long as you live, and then he says Karza Karke Ghrit Pivet, something like that is there, that enjoy for as long as you live, beg, borrow, or steal, and even if you have to just enjoy and drink ghee, even if you have to beg, borrow, and steal. So the concept is to extract maximum enjoyment out of this life for as long as you are living, because once you die, then your existence will cease. you'll cease to exist. But then the question comes that if that is the case, then what is the incentive for us to become good? Then everybody would think, okay, my enjoyment is the sole purpose of life, and me and my enjoyment in the life stops at that, right? So it doesn't give us people to become good or to invest on themselves in any way to even become better human beings. Because if the sole purpose of life is to enjoy, then it can become a little bit of a tricky life if everybody starts fending for themselves alone. So that is a materialistic view. Then comes life has ceased to exist. Okay, then comes the next one. Gyani understands that life begins with death. So they say, okay, life now starts after death. So DIE, right? Die. Die is death is examination. Okay. So life is a preparation and death is an examination, right? We all are preparing for something because when our report card, final report card will be opened up at the time of death only, where the Chitragupta or Yamaraj is going to look at our ledger balance and then say, hey, tell me, what did you do in this life? How much spiritual progress did you make? And based on the account, karmic account, when we get another gross body, our soul has to leave this body and then it is pushed into another gross body. And that is all dictated by our karmas. So Gyanis, they understand that actual life, now it's talking about the Brahma Nirvana part of it, right? That this is where the true life begins. That too only if you have attained Brahma Nirvana. Right now, it is a material life, but true life is after death. That is a perspective of a Gyani. And then you have Bhakta, the ones who do bhakti. They say life begins whenever we start serving Krishna. That is when the life begins. Okay. So their perspective is about serving God. And that serving God concept is the Karam Yoga concept basically. Everything you start building God consciousness. Like Swami Vivekananda had said as well, nothing is secular in this world. Everything is devotional if you truly start building. So for them, it's a very simple principle that when you start serving Krishna means your consciousness is united with God in every act, thought, deed that you do. Then that is when the life begins. So that never ceases to exist. So then it's a very simplified equation at that point, right? Your journey is all about trying to unite your will to God or to please God or to work for God, no matter what you're doing, thinking, or experiencing. And that at that point, your life has already started and it will only get an upgrade, if you once you become God realized. And then also what you'll do, you'll continue to serve God. So for a bhakta is a philosophy is you start serving God and then that's when your life starts. So the journey itself, you don't care about the destination. The journey itself is something which is already you're aligning to the ultimate destination now only. You're doing that simulation from here on. So that is a perspective of a bhakta. So from a materialistic standpoint, this is how people view life. Gyani, they think, okay, it's going to happen after life. For bhakta, that begins as soon as you start aligning your consciousness to God and do that with the spirit of Karam Yoga and building those that kind of a mindset. That's when the life begins. Yes, Shamji.
राधे राधे।
राधे
एक
राधे।
बात है लक्ष्मी जी से पूछनी है आपसे। उससे पहले मुझे कुछ बोलना है कि इस क्लास में आज जिंदगी में जिंदगी आ गई, प्राण में प्राण आ गए, जीवन में जीवन आ गए और हृदय में धड़कन आ गई। थैंक यू सो मच। और लक्ष्मी जी का सवाल है, जी कहिए आप।
Hey, thank you, Shamji. I mean, even I'm so happy to be back. Looking at familiar faces, it was like a void. You
It
feel
was
that something is missing in your life, right? So I'm happy
quite
to be back.
quite a phase, quite a gap.
I know it's quite a gap. I think it's probably the longest gap we ever had in the last 3.5 years, right?
True.
Uh, yeah, I was missing the session, and it's so good to see familiar faces and smiles
Same
back.
here.
So I'm happy
Yeah.
to be back.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Shamji.
Lakshmi ji
Yes,
पूछती हैं, would you please explain the second one again?
uh,
Gyani and that.
the second one. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they say the
Yeah.
life begins after death. That means your true life, spiritual, what you're basically Brahma Nirvana for them is when you attain moksha or nirvana, right? So the Gyanis, their aim is to perfect themselves and then finally become, attain moksha. So they say, when you die and when you attain that state, perfect state for them, that's when the true life begins. That is what life for them is. Bhakt says, no, even, when you start aligning to God or start building that God consciousness in your day-to-day tasks, that is when the life begins. And for materialistic people, my life is going on, but then they think it is going to end with the death itself. For bhaktas, it continues even after death, but it starts even during this lifetime itself. They say, okay, we are already aligning to the ultimate thing that we have to do. So for them, it doesn't matter as long as, they have God in their consciousness. Yeah. So that is the difference. I hope it makes sense.
Lakshmi ji, I hope it's clear. Yeah, I hope, yes, it is. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Yeah.
Any other questions on this? So let's
So far.
move to our, yes, sorry.
No, we are good so far. Anyway, we'll continue. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be the last slide. So maybe a bit of a discussion, more of a discussion today. So one is you think and the other one is a fact. You imagine something and then there is a fact, right? One is somebody imagining something is going on? It's more of a hallucination they have created in their head, or is it truly a fact, right? Or fact or imagination. So now for a liberated person, they enjoy happiness by factual experience. When a devotee is happy, it is factual experience, not some sentimental imagination. So when devotees chant, dance, people wonder why are they so happy? Are they on some kind of a drugs or something like that? Why are they so bright? And what makes them happy? So it is actually a factual experience that is unfolding in them, right? It's experience. It's very difficult to articulate or explain that. And it's not a sentimental imagination as people would like to think that these guys are only being sentimental about it and some kind of weird connection is made in their head kind of a thing, right? The key point here to understand is that when the soul it comes in contact with God, whether it is through the reverberations of the holy names, through, the spiritual sound, all these things, even the abhas aspect of it, abhas means the trace of that happiness when the soul experiences, that is a higher happiness. Then that bliss is something that can be relished within itself. You don't, you none, and then within yourself, you will experience or you would realize that this is something which is far more superior, deeper, and more lasting than anything that we have experienced in the outer world, no matter what it has been. So it is a matter of realization, and it is a fact. It is not some kind of a hocus pocus imagination that you get into. And it's a matter of, because now, and that proof is pretty strong. Like Narad Bhakti Darshan says that the praman of bhakti or the bliss of God is so strong. It is the analogy that is given is it's like the salt in food. That the salt is appropriate in the food, or is it too strong? So you don't need a proof for that. Just by tasting it, you would know that. So similarly, this bliss is so strong that abhas is there, that overwhelming and overflowing feeling that you would experience through chanting or immersing yourself in God's names or kirtans or any spiritual activity that you're doing, that your own inner experience would tell that, "Yeah, I experienced something which really satiated, something that I was looking for." It will not last because we are not yet there, but then Brahman Nirvana is a state when it is always, you are perpetually seated in that state at that point. So of course it's a pretty advanced stage, but if there was one takeaway one would like to take from this one is that this experience is something that can be relished only when you start investing time in it, and then your experience would start uh, reinforcing that belief that, yeah, something is happening. We have to take that first step around it. That is how powerful it is, because God is seated within only. And even if he reveals himself, one tiny bit, that itself will give you a aha feeling that, oh, something I got that I had never experienced before. So that is essentially what the message is. And Brahma Nirvana is the stage when you have completely purified yourself, you attain that stage when you are situated in that bliss perpetually. Okay, with that, I'll take a pause. I know 30 minutes are there. So let's have a bit of a discussion. We haven't spoken for a while, so I think we can spend some time in a bit of a discussion. How has life been, or otherwise, or anything related to Bhagavad Gita? We'll continue on this topic tomorrow. Some more layers we will peel, and now, like I said, we will go a little faster, so that we can cover the range as well. Depth, anyway, we keep on covering in between, as well as so that you get a satisfaction that we are, covered one round of Bhagavad Gita, and then anyway, I'll make out time to get depths through cross references and stuff as we go along, but we'll go relatively faster this time around. Yes.
Yeah, Mahesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Where are they, Mahesh ji?
I can't, yeah. Yeah.
I'm missing these sessions I'm waiting for the July 15 to come back. I was missing these sessions for a while.
Yeah, I've been missing as well. The feeling is mutual, Mahesh ji, and good to be back. Couldn't have been more happier, and good to see all of you back as well. So yeah, it's good to get back into that routine. I know it was a bit of a break, but we'll get back into the rhythm again now.
Thank you.
I hope you saw the makeover, a bit of a makeover here in the screen or not. Has anybody before and after? Okay,
We
good.
have seen makeover.
I didn't see a makeover.
Oh, you don't see that? That's fine. You don't have to. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
So one thing regarding this addiction, like addiction, I remember this in Bhagavatam. There is one of the Bhakt's Charit in which it was mentioned that he asked this boon from God that please make me addicted to your bhakti. This is the only thing I want. And the way it was described, it was like irrespective of external situations, whether I pass in an exam, I should want to do your bhakti. Whether I fail in an exam, I should want to do your bhakti. So that is the kind of addiction one wants to develop, and that cannot happen without the grace of God. So this last slide that you were showing, that the kind of state the real devotee gets into. So that's with respect to that, I wanted to just add this point.
Mhm.
And I also had one question. So sometimes, like regarding this fact and imagination, so sometimes people may have material attachments and they may want to, I mean, of course, God exists in each one of us, right? But sometimes we may want to, in a biased way, assume the existence of God in our material attachments. Now, is that a fact or imagination? We might still start extracting bliss because we were already attached, and we are. Am I making myself clear?
Is it that you are attached to a
For
material?
example, a grandfather is super attached to their grandchild,
Got
and
it.
he's like कि बच्चों में भगवान होते हैं. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, understood. So if that is the case, see, this is where our attachment comes in different ways, right? And our mind is very smart to, justify what it's trying to do. But if that is the case, if grandfather is super attached to the grandchild, and in bachcho mein Bhagwan, like they see a veritable form of God in a kid, then
Bias नहीं होना चाहिए.
then they should see it in every kid. Why special attention to your grandchild alone? Right? And if it is a special attention to the grandchild alone, that means it is your own attachment, which is coming in the garb of, being looking at God in them. But yeah, those kind of things can happen. And I've come across people who say that, we find God in our, this particular relation and stuff like that. It is your attachment. If that is the case, then you should see divinity. That means you are either Hans or a Paramhans. You are already there. But then why limit it to your bubble only? Expand your bubble, no? Why not rest of the world? If you're able to see divinity, then sure you are there. But if you're seeing only in one person, it is your attachment to that person.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, good question though. Yes, anything else? So please fill out the feedback tracker. I know I get out of practice, it's been a while. So how to pace it, I'll pace it better. I'll get better. Within 3 days, I'll be back into the rhythm. So today I did it a bit fast. Yes, Rahul, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. The slide structure has also changed a little bit. On the left hand corner, you have brought our Thakurji.
Left hand, what have I brought?
Left hand corner, you have brought Thakurji with the Morpunk. I
Yeah,
think that was not there previously.
Thakurji has made his entry for sure with his Morpunk. Good catch, Rahul. Yes, anything else? Any other questions?
Nitinji, I just wanted to add this, like you were talking about life is a preparation and death is an examination. So, like with respect to bhakti also, that is actually somewhat applicable. Like it is said, right, that we should practice remembrance of God throughout our life, because that is what, if we have practiced enough, we will, even at the time of death, which is very, very painful, we will still have remembrance of God. And it does matter, like whatever is in our mind when we are dying is what we achieve after death, right? So that is basically an example of life is a preparation and death is an examination.
That is true, because whatever we have practiced for majority of our life is what will come to us at the time of our death, because that is what is our predisposition of our mind is, right? And second reason for remembering God always is that we don't know which moment is going to be our last moment. If we knew that, next 3 days or in next 30 minutes, we are going to depart, if anybody knew, they can do a lot of wonderful things. They can immediately, practice Sharanagati and get away with it. Or people can get signatures and stuff, right? If their will is not prepared. Too many things they can do. But the point is, nobody knows when their next moment could be their last moment. So that is why God said, do hedging or risk mitigation strategies. Remember me all time, because you don't know which is going to be your last moment, right? And if you're remembering you made that practice solid, then there's a good chance that you would remember me, and then you are welcome to my abode at that point. So that is the whole idea. That is why Nirantarta is really emphasized throughout Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satat yuktanam, right? And then sarveshu kaleshu, at every moment, and unite your mind and your will to me. That way you will no doubt come to me, is what God's promise is. And he's not the one who will break his promises, so we can trust him on that. Any other questions? Okay, you can fill out the feedback tracker, maybe a bit of a discussion on this aspect. This is pretty interesting. Yes, Jyoti, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji.
Radhe Radhe, Jyoti.
Thank you. I'm really thankful for starting this session again. I was missing it like anything.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back as well.
And I have a question. This sounded a little stupid to me as well, but still I want to ask. While I was attending your class today, a question came into my mind. So to me, it feels like I don't know whether in this life I will be able to gain that knowledge and might be able to reach God or not. Is there any way through which we can get another human life? What we can do at least to get another human life soon?
See, it's not that this is our last human life. We have had infinite human lives before. It's not like this is our last human life, and after that, we will not come back as humans. So now, is there a formula? I had asked, is there a formula to ensure we get a back-to-back human life? I don't know.
Yes. Okay.
The only formula to get back-to-back human life is, I don't know if it's truly a formula or not, if you have spent majority of your life prioritizing spirituality or spiritual pursuits, because that's where you have fulfilled the purpose of human life. And then God may say, it's like this: if your scholarship is given to a student and the student fritters it away in drinking, smoking, and etc., right? Then the scholarship may not be given. But if the scholarship is properly utilized, then the scholarship is, renewed. So if we spend life prioritizing spirituality and really yearning for God and progressing spiritually, then there's a good chance God will say, okay, let's give them another opportunity immediately. But regardless, our human life, there is no way that this is our human. We will get it. Now, how much wait period would be there? It really depends on the efforts we make in this life between back-to-back human lives. And Krishna, in fact, Arjun has also asked this question to Krishna. What happens to me if I am unable to complete my journey in this lifetime? Will I be like that broken cloud which is swept away by the wind, which is not able to produce rain and simply gets swept away by rain? Right? There is a cloud which gets broken. It's the rest of the cloud, and it does not contribute to rain. It just gets swept away. So Arjuna asked this question. So Krishna says no. Okay, that is again one of his huge mercies. He says no. So what will happen is whatever gain you have made, whenever you will come back as a human, I will make sure you get that. Okay, and then if you have really made progress, then he will make sure you are born in a pious family so that you can carry forward with your journey quickly or from where you left fairly quickly in your next lifetime. But he's not given any formula that Arjun, if you do this, you'll be born as a human back to back. He's left that question open. And at least I haven't come across that answer anywhere. But the point is that if you spend majority of your life in spiritual pursuits or prioritizing, spirituality, then there's a good chance that God may give us an opportunity back to back without a long wait period in between. It's all up to us. It's our efforts only, and how much intensity we bring to our spiritual practice, right? Like any other thing. So yeah, but there's no formula as such.
Thank you, Nitin.
Radhe Radhe. So that is why we sit here, right? At least we do this satsang. 1 by 24 hours are spent in this, and Krishna will get impressed and he'll say, let's keep them, giving them human birth, for as long as they continue reading Bhagavad Gita. Go ahead, Shyamji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Falguni has a thought and a concern. Radhe Radhe. Very happy to be back after a break of 5 months, Nitinji. Can you please elaborate a little on the last line? He can sit silently and enjoy the activities of life from within.
Which slide?
Last line. He can sit silently and enjoy the activities of life from within. I guess the Bhakti part, I guess.
I think it was on the last slide, Nitin.
Last slide.
Or this one?
No.
This one?
No, not this one. Falguni, can you listen? Are you there?
Okay, this one.
This one.
Yeah, this one, yeah.
So within this means now you are getting the bliss from within. You don't have to go to a movie or to a party with friends to extract that bliss or add something to yourself. When you can relish it from within, that is why people who are in samadhi, you tell them they don't want to get off, because the intoxication that they are experiencing by uniting themselves to God, that is a pretty high one. And similarly, a devotee, when they start relishing bliss from within, right? If you look at people, why do they keep on sitting in ekant sadhana at times? Because they are relishing that bliss. The bliss that is emanating from within by, that God's name, which is reverberating within, it is something to be experienced. They don't want to get off. So for them, when the moment they get, this exposure to the world or talks and stuff, they said, oh my God, where have I come? So it seems very, very odd to them. But that can only happen when you have experienced that bliss, and that you don't need anybody for that. Now you are tapping into the bliss which is seated within you only by quietening your mind and by connecting your mind to God. You can connect it in form of God's name, his pastimes, his leelas, relishing his pastime, imagining his leelas. Anything of that sort is bound to give you the bliss in due course of time. So that is what it means. You can sit silently and still enjoying. You don't have to party or dance or talk to anybody at that point. That is essentially what it means. I hope I answered your question, Falguni ji. and happy to have you back after 5 months. Does that answer your question, Falguni ji?
I hope yes.
Okay,
I can't say
great.
anything now.
All right. So any other questions, or we could wrap it up early? Like I said, today we started after a while, so I was, not able to pace it as well as I normally do. So I was able to complete it sooner, but I'm glad we had a bit of a discussion. So we will, yes, Rahul, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. We can do our devotional segment where we can chant Bhakti Shatak Shloka.
Or do we have that? Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
We can have a couple of rounds of chanting and then we can wrap it up. So what I'm saying is that we'll go a little faster from here on. So if you have any questions related to this verse and all, please fill it and in the feedback tracker if you have not already. And let's do a couple of rounds of chantings and then we can wrap up our session. So thank you and welcome back, everybody. It's good to be back.
Thank you so
Go
much.
ahead.
We're still in a state of shock. समझ नहीं आ रहा कि हम वापस आ गए हैं कि नहीं आए हैं. हम सब अभी सोच ही रहे हैं कि ये क्या हो रहा है हमारे साथ. सपना है, हकीकत है ये.
I
हम
hope
सब
it's a
भाव में
pleasant shock for
It is pleasant shock for sure.
no, it's
तो
good to be
सोच रहे हैं
back.
क्या
Good to
करें हम.
see smiling faces back. So we'll get into a rhythm again quickly.
Yes, sure.
All right, Rahul, go ahead.
Shyamji, you want to go ahead?
Good, Shyamji.
I can
We can take maybe 3 hands and then we'll wrap it up.
आत्मा बिच परमात्मा करत निवास सदाए राधे राधे याते कहूँ कहूँ आत्मा परमात्मा कहलाए राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे. The Supreme Soul always resides in the individual soul. That is why the scriptures sometimes refer to the individual soul as a Supreme Soul, Paramatma. Radhe Radhe. Thank you so much.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, let's take the 3 more hands as I see. Go ahead, Sandhya.
आत्मा बिच परमात्मा करत निवास सदाय राधे राधे याते कहूँ कहूँ आत्मा परमात्मा कहलाय राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे.
Nice, thank you. And this again goes back to the discussion that we have been having, that the bliss, the fountain of bliss is seated within us only. Okay, we don't have to seek it outside. And that is the relationship that we already have, the Atma Paramatma relationship. Once we start tapping into that fountain of bliss by reciting God's name, by remembering God, by immersing in his Leelas, then we don't need anything from outside. At that time, our soul will say, "Ah, I got what I was always looking for." It will give it the satisfaction, the satiation, or the tripti, as they call it in Hindi. So this again goes back to what we have been discussing. Once we start invoking the Paramatma within us and tapping into that fountain of bliss. Yes, Riyaji, last 2 hands, and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Riyaji.
Radhe Radhe. आत्मा बिच परमात्मा करत निवास सदाय राधे राधे याते कहूँ कहूँ आत्मा परमात्मा कहलाय राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे.
Thank you, Riyaji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Swati ji, last but not the least, and I would encourage people to fill out the feedback tracker which has been posted, if not already. Yes, Swati ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. आत्मा बिच परमात्मा करत निवास सदाय राधे राधे
याते कहूँ कहूँ आत्मा परमात्मा कहलाए राधे राधे. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Thank you, Swatiji. Radhe Radhe. And with that, we come to the end of today's session, and glad to be back. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and getting back into a rhythm again. So Radhe Radhe. Good night, good day from my side. Thank you, everybody. Bye.